Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Off the Grid. I'm Niall Maher. I'm joined tonight by Kevin, Sean, and Rob. Are you there, guys?
I am indeed.
Evening, Niall.
Evening, all. How are we all today?
Grand.
Oh, good, oh, good.
Cannot complain.
Cannot complain. So, we are here at Silverstone. We've got guys out doing the usual Monday night practice sessions. Currently, got Keith Dempsey up. Our best time so far with Jordan Kelly and Josh Mallon. Brian McManus just in behind. We'll go to those times for a second, but I'll hand over to Kevin to give us a little bit of a run through of what we got lined up for tonight. I believe we actually had words with Keith earlier on, did we?
Yeah, we did. I had Keith earlier on. It was interesting actually talking away to him. I suppose he's at top of the timing standings at the moment in this practice, but not top of the championship, which is something you haven't seen in a while. So talking to a little bit to him a little bit about kind of not being kingpin in the iDMC championships for once. Talked to him a little bit about his, I suppose his, history of racing and the kind of transition from real racing to sim racing. And yeah, I just over in England with the karting and kind of the future of karting. We also did touch a little bit about John Campion, of course, because we were talking a little bit about kind of the funding and making access to motor racing more accessible for people who don't have the resources. So interesting chat with him coming up. We have a little bit of everything going on. We'll be recapping over our very interesting racing in Spa, which saw two kind of unfancied winners, I suppose. Just a little bit. We have our usual competition, of course, as well, and talking about the upcoming round at Spa or at Silverstone, as you can see in front of you.
Cool. So what's the prize this week, Rob? What have you got lined up?
I think we decided on it was between one of the sexy new Digital-Motorsports hoodies and an Aorus gaming headset. I think we went for the headset in the end.
We did. We've been talking about this for days about what we were going to do.
Well, once there's one of those cool, sexy hoodies for me, I think they're deadly. Well, I actually, do you know what?
There's four of them for you, Niall.
Is there deadly? I haven't got a picture of them yet. We'll get that up on our Facebook page, I suppose. Keep an eye on that. So, of course, this show is all about just a rundown of what's been going on since the last race. We're going to have a look back over some of the... Well, actually, no, guys, you're going to be quite cross with me. I don't have a full replay of all the incidents for this, so hopefully it'll work. But if not, then we've got just a look around some of the tracks here. We might go on board with some of the guys. Try that this week as well, just to see.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But let's see if we can pull up the timings where we're at the moment, because Silverstone is kind of make or break. The big thing about this round is, of course, no more dropped rounds. So here you have it. Keith Dempsey is 2/10 away from Jordan. Now, remember, this is kind of their first practice session out around Silverstone. We expect this to go. We'll get down to the M4s in a second, but that is, I'm going to say, a little bit surprising how far off the top 10 are. Because don't forget, last week at Spa, longer track time, they were right on top of each other for the top 10. So we'll see how this one pans out. A lot of the usual names up the top, a few surprises as well so far, but of course a lot of the drivers off the back of the VLN over the weekend. The VRA guys, I know, and Sergey were in the top split of that, which was really interesting. But I think with 30 minutes to go, I think it was Peter McCann, or one of them anyway, just clipped the curb and put the car into the wall, chasing down top spot. So that was really unfortunate for those guys. But they'll be well used to these cars now at this stage. I'm just looking there as well. Brendan Sohn going fast. Is he going fast in the M4s? But so the timings, we'll keep an eye on that through the show as we go on. And I suppose, what's there to say about this track other than it's going to be tight and twisty again with the M4s and the M8s. Of course, we had a lot of unfortunate accidents without going back over it, Kevin, in Spa between M4s and M8s. Some of those collisions actually, how would you say, deciding podiums at the end of the day, which was quite unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose, look, you're always going to get a bit of that. That's racing, isn't it? So, and I suppose what was disappointing was to see how much there was quite early in the race. Like even seeing Keith, I think, was involved in an incident. A couple of the turn 3 guys were involved in an incident going through Lecom. And yeah, it was just kind of slightly disappointing, I suppose, especially the way the race panned out. To see, I think trying Josh Malin was obviously going to go and win it, and then there was a disconnection, and then it was just kind of madness at the end. We had a lot of we had a lot of unfortunately kind of like black flags, meaning that we kind of it was a bit of a strange race. We had a lot of kind of the leaders were kind of shaken off the lead, and not we saw a lot of overtaking, but not necessarily on track, which I think you always want to see overtaking on track if you can. So it was a bit disappointment, but it was really exciting. I mean, for a 45-minute race, there was excitement right until the end, and for myself and Jack, it was like, trying to. We were obviously watching what was on the track, but there was so much happening in terms of the slowdowns, who was potentially getting slowdowns, who was potentially racking up. We didn't know who was kind of approaching that disqualification mark for the instance points. Spa, as we know, is notoriously unforgiving in terms of track limits, particularly on iRacing. So I think a couple of the guys suffered from that. But there was some really good racing in amongst it as well. And look, I suppose these guys now we're 3 rounds in, we're halfway through the series, and they are 3 weeks in, or race weeks in, if you want to put it that way. So guys are starting to get to know each other really, really well, and starting to get to know the cars really well. So I'm really looking forward to this week. I think Silverstone will be a really interesting track. A lot of these guys have raced there in real life, of course, as well. It is the track, obviously, in iRacing that has the closest proximity to ourselves for the moment, until we get Mondello in it. So I suppose, a lot of the guys are going to know it, so it'll be interesting to see how they can apply that kind of real world experience around Silverstone to this week's BMW M4 and M8 Championship.
Yeah, I guess one of the biggest things for us, like it's always interesting to hear from the yourself and Jack's perspective, but I guess from Rob, Sean, and myself, it was the busiest race I'd say we've had, lads, isn't it? It's kind of
in terms of incidents.
Well, just how busy we were. Like, I guess it was surprising to see first of all, the amount of drive-throughs. Like, Spa is relentless in terms of the track cuts and how many incidents you can pick up very easily.
And I think that's what Keith fell foul of in the end, wasn't it? I think he got 17x or whatever and got disqualified. Maybe he comes to that in the chat you have with him, Kevin. I'm not sure, but yeah, that illustrates that point.
I think one of the things with that as well that's unfortunate with iRacing is, I think in Keith's case, and I believe himself and Jordan were talking afterwards, but the small contacts at the back that you would normally get, like you'd normally expect to get away with in some form of GT race in the real world, but unfortunately it gives penalty points or incident points to both drivers for contact. So although you're the car in front and the car behind is tapping your bumper as you're drafting, or as they call it, bump drafting, you're picking up incident points there, and I think that's as we watched 70 there with one, but that's where Keith fell prey to it. I think they were so close, especially coming up over Radion and down the Camel Straight. They were actually just tapping off each other, and I think Jordan just came out the better of it.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for Keith as well, and knowing Jordan, that's not something that he would ever do intentionally. That would be a technique that you could potentially use if you're that way inclined, I suppose, in iRacing, but it does impact you equally badly. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And the other thing as well that we spent a bit of time looking at last week is the whole netcode thing, and that's a whole minefield in itself. So if you don't know what netcode is, basically, and Niall, you can probably explain this better than me, but
I don't think anyone can explain it, Rob, to be honest. But, yeah.
It's when two cars are very, very close to each other, but don't quite touch. But iRacing software kind of glitches out, doesn't know exactly what to do, and when cars get very close to each other, it can spin one or both cars without them actually having made physical contact. And we had a couple of instances of that in the race last week that we had to review, and then you get into this grey area of, well, okay, yeah, there was netcode involved there, but would they have run into each other anyway? And if that was the case, do they deserve a penalty,
Well,
or what's the story? So it's
I mean,
very hard
that
to
incident there
judge.
is there is a good 2.5 feet between those cars. You know,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
quality
just a
isn't
case of
great there now at
interest
the moment, but
there. Can I ask you guys, and I'm interested from your stewarding point of view, do you think, obviously you sort of 17 points do you think, looking back in it, you would have been more lenient, or you would have allowed more instant points to allow for that? Like if we were to go back here next season.
I think we're quite lenient as it is, to be honest. I would say that was a bit of feedback that we got from the guys from, I think it was the first or the second round, was that we'd applied a penalty. I think it was like a 5 second, and the feedback we got from pretty much the whole community was that it was too easy.
I think Kevin's talking about the track cut incidents, is it?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what I mean more is like the amount of instant, not the actual application of penalties. Because
Yeah.
even here, like I'm looking at there are how many? There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were about 10 incidents thereabouts, 10 incidents from the other day, and there was only 3 of them were punished. So I don't mean it from that point of view. I just mean more kind of like, would you, if we were to go back there again, would you up the amount of instance points allowed before you were given a drive-through, or before you were
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So the way it works is you're allowed 17 like track cuts or car contact or whatever it is before you get your first drive-through, right? And Spa is particularly bad for it. But then if you're going the other way, let's say, we did have this chat, actually Nicky Meredith brought it up in the chat at one point, which was, if you go the other way, like 27 track cuts, it's kind of like, what are you saying then? You know, you're kind of saying, well, it's okay to do track cuts and it's okay to have contact. So iRacing themselves, like for their sprint racing and stuff, you know, it's 17. We stuck with 17 for an endurance race format. It was quite punishable. I don't think it ruined the race at all. I think when you look back on it, it's unfortunate that, you know, Josh Mallon, what happened, that's not racing. That's purely sim racing. You know, he did nothing wrong apart from put a wheel out over a line, and that's it. His race is over. You'd never get that in a real world race.
I don't know. It was Josh's internet that bugged out.
Josh's internet cut out. Yeah. I think
But,
it was
look,
Keith and Jordan went in for the drive-through at the same time, didn't they?
yeah, that's right.
But was it Josh's Josh Mann's internet that dropped? I actually thought you got went over the instant limit. Oh, that's doubly
it's even
cruel.
worse.
Yeah,
so cruel. But look, I think, you know, it's the same for everyone with the incidents, and they all have a display of how many they have tallied up during the race, so they know when they're getting close. So it's just part and parcel of it. As we look on screen there at that bit of netcode that happened in the S's there. So yeah, look, I wouldn't change anything, to tell you the truth. It's if you go messing around with that stuff, it just incites kind of people to bend the rules even further, you know. So I think you're better off sticking with it as it is.
let's have a quick look at the timings here. Let's see where we're at now. So, like Silverstone, I was driving on it last night. Actually, Kevin Scheim is on, and what's on Nathan and Brian McManus. It's amazing the amount of time these guys put in during the week into this. But I think Silverstone, to answer your question, Kevin, a different way, Silverstone will be not as complicated with track cuts. So, and of course, we're back to the sprint format, so the 2 races. It's a tough one, because as soon as we go making changes to our rules in terms of track cuts or that, I guess the point I'm bumbling about here is, and I'll probably get shot down in Discord for it, but yeah, if I could have gone back, I probably would have increased the instant count, to answer your question, for the endurance race around Spa. I think it stole us of some good battles for unnecessary reasons, you know.
That's a good point. Just
interesting.
Sorry, Kevin. Just very quickly, I haven't been on any servers this week, so unlike the week before where I was in Spa and tooling around and having a go, driving the M8s and whatnot. So what? I don't know who are the movers and shakers, who's doing well, who's having trouble. you've been on with the lads, Niall. Fill us in a bit. What's the crack?
It's actually been fairly genuine. It's been very quiet because there's so much going on at the moment. But if let me see if I can get really clever here and bring up the results for a second. We just see. So of course we got our new championship tables, which we've been working on with SureTech, which is great. Shane, fabulous guy doing this stuff. Actually for this week with Silverstone, we're going to be using the new incident format on this, which will be a change from the usual Google Forms or Google Sheet stuff. But if we look at this is with the dropped round now included into the championship points. So what that means is basically everyone is going to have to count Silverstone, Bathurst, and the Northlife at the end, which is the combined VLN. There you go. For everyone that was asking, it's going to have the small GP track in it. But it's Jordan Kelly, Josh Mallon. Jordan Kelly was putting in the fastest times anyway last night. Himself and Brian were 154s dead. So basically what the time Keith's putting in there now. So I think they're sandbagging a little bit. Josh Mallon is 155 too, so he's 3/10 off. But Josh has really shown the maturity of racing on this, and I know he had a bad experience with the last race, both on and off the track, but he's one to watch. I quite fancy, if we're getting into the who's the movers and shakers piece, I really can't see past Keith for this one. Of course, Peter will be there as well. But from the championship point of view, we've got to look at the points there. Look at this. It's Jordan Kelly. Did I just call him Jordan Dempsey, by the way?
No.
No, Grant, don't do that.
All right.
Jordan Kelly, 125 from Josh Mallon. And then it's 97 points, Brian P. for Pro McManus. Jason Cooper in there at 89. Now that was surprising when you think of the results that we've had, but when that dropped round came in, Jason's really shown where his just consistency of results, and you kind of have to feel then like Nicky Meredith, Keith Dempsey, all the turn 3 guys, James Holman. Your heart has to go out to James Holman. Like we reviewed that incident. It was seen as a 50-50 at the end of the day. It was just so unfortunate the way McMullen's car came around, clipped him the second time, and then it all broke loose. But he would have been right up there in terms of points now. He's on 80. But of course with the iDMC, what we're saying here is it's going to be the top 5 who are really gunning for those places to go on and hopefully represent the country when we get more details around this European Championship that's coming up. So the top 5 is super close. It's after Silverstone, we're really going to know who's the movers and shakers, Rob, to answer your question.
Okay, and what about in Pro-Am?
So in the Pro-Am side of things, it's even closer again. It's let me just see if we can pull up the results for that. So results on the Pro-Am side is not showing for me now.
I suppose Alex Denning is kind of the standout leader. That Dave Maguire won the other day in Spa. That was the first time that Alex hadn't won in the championship. So it was interesting to see Dave actually jumped a huge amount of places. He was 11th in the championship going into the race at Spa. With that win, ended up going into 4th. So,
well, you can see with Alex, because of the dropped round 4, that really didn't matter to him because he's still taking the 3 wins forward. But I guess the unfortunate thing was Harry McGovern. He didn't have a great race at Spa at all. But I was talking to Kevin Shine last night, and you know, Kevin's one to watch there. He's consistently putting in good results, and that's what it's all about. You know, it's, as I said, round 5, 6. If the 2 sprint races here at Silverstone, I'd suspect Alex would go well. So would Harry. But a couple of dark horses in there as well. Chris McCann's putting in good times. Lawrence is always quite handy around here. If Michael McGuinness shows up, I know he had a hand injury. He could always go very well. And I'm going to say I still think Brendan Stone has a good race in him yet, and Lawrence. So can't really see beyond Alex and Harry at the moment. But if I was to say who'd be my wild horse in it, I'm going to throw out to
You're
Brendan.
a wild
maybe.
horse.
Wild card. Well, a wild horse, we call him. I'm only saying that because I was looking out the office window earlier on. What rocks by only a horse, so that's why that was on my mind. Random as it is, but no, I'd say keep an eye on Brennan there. He's got he got racked up 30 points in Spa and did quite well.
I saw a horse at a bus stop the other day.
Oh yeah, what bus was he
Yeah.
in?
Yeah.
Tala. What can you say? Chris McCann and Lawrence DeSaza were just saying there that they actually, just going back to the incident points, they actually think the points should be lowered for the sprint races, so reduced from the 17, but kept high for the kept as they are for the endurance rounds. So
Yeah, I'd kind of agree with that, but look, it's working quite well, and as a championship, I think it just keeps getting better and better. But it's interesting that those guys have a lot of experience, especially Lawrence. Like if he's saying it should be lower, I take it on board.
The only thing though is I would say, like, I know that obviously, like, generally instant points when you're talking about public lobbies are, you know, brought in to kind of discourage people driving like idiots. Not that that always works. But the fact that we have obviously the three of you guys watching proceedings, and I think the standard has been pretty high anyway. That, you know, I don't know if the instant points are necessarily that kind of discouragement if that's required in this championship. Like, you know, it doesn't seem to me like, you know, like if you had I don't know, 10 instance points for a sprint race, you're talking you could get 2 touches or 2 net codes, which could easily happen, and all of a sudden you're left with 2 instant points for the rest of the race.
that's true.
So I personally, look, I obviously the guys know the ins and outs of the championship a lot better than I do, but from a commentator's point of view, I thought the way, you know, we love seeing good close battling. You want to encourage close battling, and the idea is that if somebody does step over the line, then the stewards are there to step in. You guys are there to step in and kind of. And I think having a very tight margin for error in terms of instance points discourages, you know, door-to-door racing, which is kind of not what we want to see. I mean, I know nobody wants to see any instance, but we do want to see guys battling hard, and you don't want to see, especially when there's no pit stops, there's no opportunity to kind of make your gains in the pits. So you've really, the only way to overtake is to do it on track. So I would rather have a situation where we're kind of encouraging guys to go door, and if there are the occasional instant point, then what have you. I don't think anybody's going to be, you know, same with track limits. I think if anybody was kind of taking the proverb with track limits, you guys would be on it pretty quick and saying, right, well, you know, whatever, a 10-second stop go penalty for abuse of track limits. You know, I don't see that kind of those instant points as being as relevant when you have live stewards.
It's a fair shout.
Yeah,
It's probably something we don't take on. What do you reckon, Rob?
Yeah, look, I think Kevin's probably right there. Yeah, I think it's probably best left alone. It seems to be working, to be honest. So it's not something that I think we need to mess with. So, yeah, I'd leave it as it is.
Yeah. What do
That's
you reckon, Sean? Is he there?
Oh, maybe we lost Sean. He was having some mic difficulties earlier on, so maybe we've lost him temporarily.
Possibly.
Well, while he tries to figure out his technical issues, we should say hi to some more. So we've got some new people watching. We've got Andy Keogh, Simon Wall, Niall Murray watching us, Kevin Sheen from Sheen Racing Cars watching. Evening, lads. Got any questions? Do drop us a question, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. We'll do our very best to get back to you and answer them. Will we move on to
yeah, well, we
our
have that
next
interview with
section?
Keith Dempsey. Do we do the introduction to that, Kevin, and we'll pop over to that?
Yeah, so I had Keith. I grabbed Keith in the studio a few days ago. He was heading off to work, but I suppose we chatted a little bit. We didn't chat a huge bit about Spa. Now looking back on it, Rob, now that you mentioned it was kind of an opportunity lost, but Keith was kind of getting so into his own career and his upbringing, and I suppose one of the main things about it was kind of the interesting thing that came from the interview was kind of what we need to do better as a community in terms of motorsport in Ireland to encourage people that don't have the resources to go out and race. Obviously, Keith's father Cliff was a racer, and now his son Danny is racing. We talk about that, and I suppose a little bit about how we kind of encourage people to just to, you know, to encourage people that don't have the resources to get out racing. So yeah, here's my chat with Keith during the week.
So I suppose it's rather fitting that the man I have joined alongside me is actually driving at the moment. You're pretty good at it, in fairness, generally. A little bit more sedate, though, this morning. Keith Dempsey joined us, I would say, on the line, but I suppose technically you're on the hands-free. Keith, thanks a million for joining us on the show. I suppose tell us, first of all, kind of, you say you're driving to work. What's work for you at the moment, and kind of, how are things for you generally during lockdown?
Hey Kevin, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, no, I'm on my way to work. I work in Dan Ryan Truck Rentals, so I'm a lease manager here in Dan Ryan Truck Rentals. So we look after all of the Musgraves on post, super value home delivery stuff. So yeah, we've been fairly busy through lockdown. We haven't stopped through the whole thing, so it's been good, to be honest, to be secure in a job and stuff like that as well. So a lot of people aren't that lucky. So yeah, no, we've been very busy.
Brilliant, Keith. I suppose, look, we'll start kind of at the start. Ireland's youngest ever international race driver. I know it's probably something that you're probably may cringe when you hear from time to time, but still a fantastic achievement. You were 17 when you went over to do testing at Manicore. That was off the back as well of a successful kind of karting career in Ireland. How do you feel in terms of the kind of progression, the kind of opportunities that young fellas like yourself might have been given in karting, and now that you know you've been obviously involved in the scene for so long, how have they developed over the years?
Yeah, I was very lucky, obviously, to be born into with my dad's family business was a motor racing team, Keith Dempsey Racing, throughout the years. So we kind of grew up with racing throughout our lives from 2 weeks old. I think I was in Mondello and my dad was racing, so we were. We didn't know anything else basically other than motor racing. It was kind of what we were brought up doing, and it's all we ever kind of wanted to do. We never had much interest in other sports, so it was always kind of a natural progression, I suppose, that when we came of the right age or probably showed enough interest, or we made sure that we were always, one of the stipulations was that we always had to kind of do well at school and not be messing around and stuff like that. So when we got the chance to go racing, myself and Peter kind of took it with both hands and both really enjoyed it. Like, you know, we were lucky to have the opportunities that we did, and not many people get them chances nowadays. Like, you know, it's an expensive sport. It's not as accessible as it probably was back then, but it's still a great way to make friends. Most of my friends I have now are all friends that I made through motor racing. So I have no regrets about anything that we ever did growing up.
It's interesting that you kind of say about that accessibility, because obviously the very sad news this month that John Campion passed away, and I suppose John was one of those people that, you know, was really forward looking in that way, in terms of he tried to provide opportunities for those who were talented but mightn't necessarily have the resources to get into it full time. What do you think can be done to kind of, I suppose, make things more accessible, make racing more accessible for people? I suppose we've seen some of the Formula Female stuff, which is brilliant. That's tailored specifically towards young women. But generally, like, you know, what do you think motor racing in general can do to try and make the sport a little bit more accessible for people who mightn't necessarily have the same background like yourself?
Yeah, it's a tough question, that, to be honest, because it's not the sort of sport that if someone sees and likes and wants to do it, it's something they can just jump into. You need to have, obviously, money. You need to have a bit of a technical understanding as well to get into go-kart racing and stuff like that. But having people like John Campion and stuff around the Irish scene for the past couple of years has been so good. We haven't had that opportunity over here in a long time to have someone who would actually invest in the talent that's in the country, and there's actually a lot of good talent that comes out of Ireland, but unfortunately a lot of the time people haven't had the resources to kind of show their talent, which is what is required in motor racing. So yeah, look, it's not a usual sport. I think obviously the GAs and stuff like that around Ireland are so popular, and they do such a good job at integrating that into their communities and stuff like that. It's maybe something along them lines that we need to look at for motor racing, to see if we can integrate county racing or something like that. I don't know, but the GA have it well tied up, and they have a great system there in place, and it includes everybody. I don't think motor racing will ever get to that stage, but I think they need to try kind of spread their wings a little bit, make it a little bit more accessible. In my opinion, they need to reduce the number of classes that they have in kart racing, because there's you go to a kart race now, there's so many different classes of karts that you can race at a certain age. It's very confusing, like, you know. So when I started karting, it was cadets, then it was jickas, then it was hundreds, and that was pretty much your only options before you moved to cars. So now you go, I've only started karting with my little lad Danny, and there's 2 types of Bambinos, there's a couple of different types of cadets, and it's just it's a little bit diluted. I think it's taken a little bit away from the sport. I think they should maybe look at reducing the numbers and focusing on a certain structure, and like they do in America, like with the Road to Indy, have a structure like you do USF 2000, you do Indy Pro, you do Indy Lights, and then IndyCar, and that's your ladder. And I think that kind of the ladder in Ireland at the moment, from grassroots right up, is a little bit wobbly.
I do want to talk to you about that Indy Pro, because I know that Turn 3 are obviously very much involved in that. Your own brother, I think, is involved in it. I suppose you're just talking there about bringing your young fella Danny racing. You obviously started under your dad, Cliff. Does it, I suppose, first of all, how much of your dad's influence do you find yourself doing when you're bringing Danny out, and kind of the same kind of advice? And I suppose, second of all, does now bringing Danny out make you kind of see your own career and the way you were brought up through the ranks in another light?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, growing up with my dad and stuff like that, and we were very, very lucky to have that experience. And not just Dad, but Dad, when he was running the team, we always had the best drivers in the country were usually with Dad's team. So we kind of learned off them as well at the same time. Like, you know, if there was ever an opportunity where the lads would be going around Mondello for a lap in a road car, either myself or Peter would jump in the car as well. And we probably learned a lot through all the drivers that raced with Dad's team, like the Wayne Douglas, who races in the series now and stuff. They were all some of Ireland's top drivers, and we got the opportunity to see from a very young age how they went about it, the lines they took, the things they done, and stuff like that. So we were very lucky in that way. And I suppose for Danny now, it's very different to how I grew up. I'm not at a racetrack every weekend around racing, so we're kind of starting from scratch. He's mad into it, he loves it, but he doesn't have the same he's not brought up with it like I was. He cycles his bike, he plays with his friends, he does his GAA in school, so it's very different. For me growing up, it was just racing cars and that was it every weekend, and that's all I thought about. Whereas Danny, it's different, and it's good for him as well to have. I'm not forcing him to do it, he wants to do it. He probably wants to do it more than I want him to do it, so I can't stop it now.
It is always interesting. You always hear that racers, when they become dads, they never want their kids to follow in their footsteps. I suppose, tell us when you went through you had Formula Ford and Formula Renault, of course, racing over in the UK. How big a step up was that from the Irish scene?
It was huge at the time, and I was very young, and we didn't race. We raced karts ourselves. I started when I was 9. Peter started when he was 8, and we raced regular. We didn't do the full championships. We were always the race team was always the priority for us. So we would do maybe 5 or 6 races a year, because the other meetings would probably clash with the car races. So we done a bit of karting. We enjoyed it. We done well at it, and then I was lucky enough. I think I was 14 when I first tested a car, which was very. It's pretty regular now, but back then in like 1998, probably when it was very rare for someone of my age to start testing a car. So I was young and I was hungry for it, I suppose. At the same time, it's all I wanted to do. It's all I grew up doing. So to go straight from karts into the Formula Europa, which it was a big step. But I think I seen Motorsport Ireland released the video of it there during the year a couple of weeks ago, and you could see from the start of the year how much I improved. The first race I wasn't great, and then you could see at the end of the year I was on the podium, and I was lucky enough to win the championship. So I struggled in Mondello. If any other track we went to, bar Mondello, I won, but it was a great learning experience. But to make that step then from racing at the highest level in Ireland to then go race in Monza, the European Formula Renault Championship, having had limited testing. We didn't do huge testing, but we didn't weren't lacking testing either, but I think it was a big step to see all these. They were all like 16, 17-year-olds and either sponsored by Toyota or Renault or whoever at the time. They were all a lot of manufacturer-backed drivers with big teams, and it was just kind of me and my dad rocking up in the truck after driving over from Ireland. So it was a great experience. It was a difficult experience at the same time. I think we learned a lot about each other and about how we do things, and it was it was tough, but it was good. Like, we got gradually better. First race, I think in Monza, we had like 2 half-hour practice sessions. The first one was wet, and I spun into parabolica and missed half the session, and then it was straight into qualifying. It was dry, so I think I qualified like 44th or 42nd. But first race was tough. Got through that, and then gradually, as the season went on, we were in the top 10 of the European Championship. But then we kind of started to realise that this is a lot more expensive than we were initially planning. So the travel costs alone were crazy. So we were living in the truck together pretty much. So it was a little bit more expensive than we had planned. So we kind of tried to get into the UK Championship, and then we were lucky enough to get into the UK Championship. They accepted us in, and got better. I think the first race in Knockhill I was 5th, and then had a win in Snetterton, and then I think I was 4th in Croft, and then Silverstone I was on from the podium, and then we had a fuel problem. So look, great days.
Yeah.
Now, but sure, look, it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's it, I suppose. And then I suppose fast forwarding, you kind of ended up kind of more moving towards the sim racing side of things. I suppose that opportunity to represent Ireland at the FIA Motorsport Games. First of all, I suppose when you first qualified, you realised you were going to be the man to represent your country over there. Tell us your original feeling, and then tell us kind of briefly about the experience of being over in Italy and representing Ireland at the tournament.
Yeah, to be honest, I shit myself going over there, to be honest, because I didn't want to let myself down or let everyone else down, because it wasn't something I had much experience in. It was based on Gran Turismo, and I only had like a month of practice on Gran Turismo, and it wasn't really going very well. So, it was a great experience. A fair play to Niall and John from CJJ. They gave us the opportunity, and Niall kind of done a lot of the work in the background to get us into the position where we could actually go. So it was a great opportunity, and then obviously arriving in Rome and having the opening ceremony in Rome, and the whole basically middle of Rome was shut down just for this event. It was really an eye opener for us and how well it was all ran. And no, we done well. I think we qualified. We were qualified in the top 10, which was really good, and then we were in the heat, done okay. I probably should have made it straight into the final, but I made a bit of a mistake. And then in the semi-final, from the repechage race, I made a mistake, and it was tough. It was tough. It was a lot. These guys have a lot of the sim racers nowadays. They either stick to one platform, so they either play iRacing, they either play Gran Turismo, or they play Assetto Corsa. They don't tend to jump around from platform to platform, and I kind of mainly stick with iRacing or Assetto Corsa is the main things I go to. So I was a little bit on the back foot, but no, we didn't. I don't think we let ourselves down at all. We could have done better, but that was down to me. But as a whole, I think to qualify in the top 10 against the top sim drivers in the world was I was proud of that. At that stage, I was happy to go home.
Absolutely. Well, I think most people, especially given the practice that you had, and it would have been delighted with the result that you got. I suppose speaking of iRacing, we have the Irish Digital-Motorsports Championship at the moment. It's always a brilliant championship, the M4 and M8 at the moment. It's obviously in association with Mondello and Motorsport Ireland. I suppose, Keith, this is unusual for you, isn't it, to be in this situation? Normally you're out the front, you're the one that's kind of taking the lead on these things, and yet at the moment you find yourself playing catch up to a few of the other lads. How have you find the experience of like, has it been difficult for you kind of not being battling up the front, and how much has it kind of forced you to kind of rethink your strategy?
Yeah, no, the lads, in fairness, have really upped their game at the moment. So I need to get my own finger out as well, to be honest. I haven't probably been spending as much time on it as I usually would. I probably haven't been as focused on it as I should be, but that's not taking anything away from the rest of the lads, or from Jordan and Josh and Peter and Nicky and the lads who are all doing really well. So, yeah, no, it's great to see. To be honest, that's what I want. I want a challenge. I don't want to be winning every race. I want to have the main reason I do this is because I want to have fun with my friends and because I want to have I enjoy racing. I love racing. That's all I want to do is race. So it's not much fun racing out front on your own. That's why I tend to like the reverse grid races and stuff like that. But yeah, it looks like them days are gone. So no, it's great to have a challenge, and I need to work harder and get a little bit sorted out. I think the pace is there. The race pace is good. Qualifying, I need to improve a bit as well. I keep getting X's and losing laps and stuff like that. But no, the lads they've really come on. Like Jordan has made such an improvement compared to where he was. He was always quick, but he seems to have put it all together now at the moment, which is really good to see how much it's actually brought him along as a driver. And you can see even in his real racing in the Formula V that he's a lot more competitive as well this year. So that really makes me happy, believe it or not, to see people from sim racing are learning and getting better, and then they're actually doing it in the real world as well, which is brilliant for the lads in Digital-Motorsport and a whole lot as well, and for Motorsport Ireland and Mandela who are getting involved, because they can see that progression as well, hopefully, and it might be a way to encourage more people to go real racing, to go from sim racing and then start racing Formula Vs or whatever the classes are over here. It would be a nice opportunity to try bring people in.
Absolutely, definitely, and I suppose you're kind of a great example of somebody who kind of works with both and has experienced both. Keith, I suppose, speaking of putting it all together, I know that obviously there was a little bit of should we say controversy maybe around the Road Atlanta race, but other than that, like the real thing from the Digital Motorsports guys, and indeed from Motorsport Ireland with this new digital license, is the sake that this is the kind of championship that puts it all together. We have obviously broadcasting the iRacing network, 2 Irish commentators, a full field, and a really star-studded field as well. It is just goes to show you the kind of strength that we have in the racing scene in Ireland generally, but particularly to be able to broadcast it across the world is just fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant to have now, and it's when all this first started, I didn't expect it to turn into something like this, or to be going to Ireland or going to Italy representing Ireland or anything like that. So it's yeah, the lads have done a super job of the whole thing and getting people and partners and stuff involved to try support it a little bit more, and hopefully it continues to grow. I think obviously with the pandemic this year has helped sim racing a lot, because a lot of people realised how much they needed some form of motor racing in their life, and I think it probably gave that to a lot of people. So that's why you see a lot of people buying sims, and hopefully then people now will realise that the sims will actually help them in real racing, and it's obviously a good pastime to spend time with your friends and stuff like that as well, because that's the most important thing for me, is to have fun with my friends. Initially when I was doing iRacing, it was when Peter was racing in America himself, and we would go on iRacing to whatever the next track was he would race at, and we would just pound laps out all night long. Like, he'd go 10 quicker than me, I'd go 10 quicker than him, and we just kind of push each other along as much as we could all the time, and that's all we've ever done. So it was a great way for us to kind of, although we lived on other sides of the world, to keep in contact with each other and keep ourselves competitive as well.
Brilliant, Keith. Look, next round is Silverstone. Hopefully you'll have more luck in terms of the mechanical side than you did all those years ago in the Formula Fords. Thanks a million for joining us on the show, of course, and look, the very best of luck to you. I'm sure that this championship is going to heat up over the next couple of rounds, and I very much doubt you'll be anywhere away, anywhere but up the front, or at least challenging for honour. So Keith Dempsey, thanks a million for joining us, and look, best of luck this weekend for the rest of the championship.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks very much.
Yeah, fantastic interview with Keith Dempsey there. I don't know if I've still got Kevin. Are you still online? I think
I've got you. Yeah, I've got you now. Unfortunately, we like the technical issues, of course, always. But if you want me to talk to you, you have to allow me to talk to you. You have to allow me to give you an old text chat. Unfortunately, now that was like, is there much left, Kev? And I was like, I wasn't even able to text back. I went to text back and I was like, you do not have permission to send a message.
we will fix that the next time around.
Yeah, I'm just glad you weren't abusing me in the background. I wasn't able to defend myself anyway.
Oh, we won't be giving you any derogatory comments this week. Just having a look at the times here as well. Surprisingly, we don't have as many people out on track as we normally would of a Monday night. I'm not sure if that's all the post-Halloween festivities or not, but still Keith at the top. And you could tell from that interview really that he's so into this in a way. And it's nice to hear him kind of saying how, you know, while Jordan is putting it up to him this season, he's inside of that. He's rooting for him, and he's watching him race in the Formula V's, and he's seeing him develop as a race car driver, and that's nice to hear as well. Because at the end of the day, it is a great community we have here, and while everyone races hard and doesn't give an inch, they all support each other out on the track as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
They all support each other off the track. As soon as the lights go out, it's every man for himself. You can be sure of that. So there's not that much well wishing going on track from Keith towards Jordan. Come when that flag goes down
On Wednesday night.
Be sure of that. So yeah, good. So that's a great interview from Keith. Really interesting to hear.
It actually was. Yeah, we had, of course, with James Dean last week, but it's we must do more of that. Get more of our drivers out and have a couple of interviews. What have we got to do to win this prize, Rob?
Oh yeah, well we did. Did we tell people what the prize was? We did, didn't we? Yeah, just simply leave a comment. You can comment on Facebook or YouTube. Ask us a question, and we will pick someone before the end of the stream. So within the next 10 or 15 minutes time. So
now the last time we did this, we hadn't figured out how we were going to pick the winner. Sean, are you there? How are we going to pick the winner?
I'm back. I just want to clear up two things. If I ever go that quiet again for that amount of time, it is technical difficulty, because you know you can never shut me up. So just check it with me. And just to answer Lawrence's comment, I won't mention which one, but he's going to know which one it was. If that was the case, Lawrence, I wouldn't put myself on mute, buddy. So
right, how do we win?
Picking the prize. I don't know. I kind of feel bad for the first guy that commented. I think it was Aaron, because I'd say he assumed we were going to do the same thing as last time, but we're not. So let me think. But while
you're thinking about that, I'm just going to say, like, one of the things that we don't do, and actually Keith reminded me of there, is just thank the sponsors that we have for this series. And it was when Keith was talking about John Campion there, who I think was our first sponsors to go over to that epic trip over to Rome. And it kind of started the whole thing off. But of course we got Mondello Park, who came on board for this, and in effect, I suppose, Sean, they're sponsoring these prizes tonight. And Motorsport Ireland, of course, who've come on board to help us promote this and run the digital licensing stuff. So big shout out to them. It's always nice to have the sponsors, and of course then everyone that gives their time and effort into it, like Kevin's on tonight with us, and we always appreciate that, Kevin. You come along, and you know Jack gives us his time when he can, and a huge shout out to Peter McCann. He always writes up, you know, the post race reviews. We've a lot of people to thank, so hopefully the prize, I'm trying to influence you there a little bit, Sean, is something got to do with our community and people contributing to it.
Yeah, Niall, can I jump in there? Because I need to do some apologies here. Well, not just the one apology. I need to do a big apology to Peter McCann, who has put in a bunch of time writing up a race review, and I haven't posted it yet. So
did I just hang you out, Rob?
Bad, no. I fully intended to send a message. I've just been so busy. I haven't even had time to send a message to say sorry. Sorry, Peter. I will do it first thing in the morning, and we appreciate it. So, well, the other thing I wanted to mention was, we've got the headset giveaway this evening that Sean's figuring out how to pick a winner right now. We've also got the ongoing competition, which is part of the iDMC, the Bmw M8 competition, the whole championship. This prize put forward by Mondello Park, which will be winners will be picked at the end of the championship, the day after the championship finishes. You can win a driving experience at Mondello Park in the BMW M8 competition, or the and the M4 competition. So two absolutely awesome cars you can drive on track. One of them, the M8 competition, is 625 horsepower, four-wheel drive. It is a rocket ship.
Sounds epic as well.
Yeah, it's class. V8 turbos, loads of power. It's just awesome. And the M4, like
So quick.
only 425 horsepower or whatever it is. But that's also savagely fast. So go to the website. There's a link in the description below. Go and enter the competition. It takes about 10 seconds to do it. Win the thing, and yeah, awesome. Right, that's me done.
That was some good plugging, Rob. I like it. Right, I figured it out. It's all come full circle, prize-wise. Someone tagged us in a comment earlier on in a sim racing group for Magic, and that person belongs to a sim racing group which is run by Barry Hodson, which is White Knuckled Sim Racing. Is that right, Niall?
Yeah, Barry, yeah.
So I'm going to give the prize to Barry, and he can decide then if he wants to keep it for himself or give it to somebody within his community as well, just to spread the love a little bit, because they were saying awfully good things about us and Digital Motorsports, and there's a big thread about it, so I think it's the right thing to do.
I'm completely lost. What did he do to win? He said nice things about us.
Somebody in his group said very nice things about us on Facebook.
We're not above bribery and
Yeah, exactly.
Send the money in an envelope. My address is.
Barra is sound in fairness.
Not even going to sugarcoat it.
We should definitely for episode 4. We should come up with some, like, tag yourself doing something ridiculous while the show is on or something like that, or upload a picture onto Instagram or some.
Are you sure you want people to do that?
Send it to Niall at digitalmotorsports.com. I don't want to see that.
Honestly, I think the best way is just getting involved. We want people to kind of, this is an interactive kind of show, so we want people to be asking us questions. And, you know, if you've got questions for drivers, the people who are on the server, we can talk to them. We're on Discord
Actually,
with them
speaking
right
of
now.
which, Rob, you know what? I'm just looking. Jordan Kelly's gone out for a sneaky outlap here. I'm wondering, could we get on board with Jordan?
Let's see if you can jump on board with Jordan. Can he talk and drive? I can't do that, but
no, he's the Kimi Räikkönen of our league, isn't he?
He is.
But currently, if we're going to see somebody crack Keith Dempsey's lap, it is going to be Jordan. So there's no better way to put him off tonight than, can someone jump down and see if Jordan would come in and talk us through the lap? Because I'd love to see it anyway. We're on board now at the moment.
The way my text going tonight, I don't think it's the best idea for me to even try and leave this Discord group for the moment.
Do that, Niall. And do you know what I'm going to do? While you do that, Niall, I'm going to tell people about something exciting that's coming up in the rallying sphere. So I don't know if any of you guys watching will have seen the Mark II Escort Challenge that we ran back in, it was April. It was actually hugely popular. It was probably the most popular series that we ran. We did 2 special stages, Draskozy and Mondale Park, with a load of pro drivers, including WRC driver Craig Breen. And it was a great crack, and it was something completely different. Anyway, sometime before Christmas, we hope, we are going to have another event. The event itself might not happen, but we will have a really special rally product to release in the coming months. So if you're Irish, you're into rallying, watch this space.
It is going to be, if we can pull all that together and the project we have, and we can't give too much away right now, but it is going to be epic.
Yeah,
and
I'm
it's
excited.
everything you wanted it to be. So hopefully Santa brings that, yeah. Now I'm just going to say...
Barry just said on the stream there, we do live in Ireland, the land of the brown envelopes. So just to clarify what my thought process was, again, just so everyone's clear. He runs a sim racing group, and someone from that group was saying very nice things about it. So I felt like we'd give it to him to dish out amongst his community as well.
Oh, so it's not even Barry's for him. It's like he has to give it to someone else.
Him if he wants to charge the fella for it, I don't mind. But it's Barry's.
It's like ultimate cronyism at this stage. It's like
Are you making it worse, Sean?
it's like brown envelopes in brown envelopes.
God.
I can't. I only take Revolut now with COVID, so the brown envelope has to hang on.
Anyway,
yeah.
Did we get Jordan?
No, you see, if I go get Jordan, it's going to drop the stream, so we're not doing that.
Oh,
We're riding on
great.
board with him here. Anyway, I can't get the delta times up, which is, well, I can actually. The sector times are shown there, but it's not bringing up his comparison against Josh Mallon, who's currently 3rd fastest around. But he's, yeah, that's one of the things with sim racing as well. You can see, as we're looking at the dash, this is, a lot of people ask me this question. Why don't you get to see the cameras? Why don't you get to see the information on the screen? Of course, that would be giving away all of Jordan's brake bias settings and his own little settings within inside the car. So what you get to see is just the basic stuff of the rev limiter and counter, and that's it. You can't see any of his pedal inputs. You get to see the steering inputs, but let's ride on board with him here and see. You carry 4 through here, yeah. So I was trying this now, like getting the car slowed down here. It's so screaming. This setup is the same setup we were using in Spa. He's 1st gear. That's interesting. Through there, he was saying last night that he was loving the setup of the car. We were going to change a little bit of it, but all we ended up doing, when I'm saying we, me, ended up doing was taking the fuel out of the car, because it was such a good setup for Spa that it's actually perfect around Silverstone as well. So I think this is going to be a good lap. If you can, it's getting the power down early enough here and just getting the run out is, and he's absolutely nailed that. He's not as tight in against the wall there as I would have expected, but this is the make or break. So is it
Sorry to put
lifting in?
across, lads. We have Jordan with us here now.
Is
What?
he in?
Yep.
Hey Jordan, we're just riding on board with you, and I was saying, I think that last lap, what time did you put in? Did you beat him? Brian's or Keith's time?
Nope. I just keep messing up a few corners.
I just want to see if I'm live. We are live with you, yeah.
Where are you struggling, Jordan? What struggling is
I
wrong.
don't
Where are
know
you
where-
losing time?
The
This
After
is
you come
so
onto the
on
bridge-
board with Jordan. And don't call him Jordan Dempsey, Rob,
yeah,
please.
Rob, don't.
Just to extra put him
Sounds like
off.
we're putting him off.
Look at
enough
that,
as
he's
it is.
over the curbs and everything. We'll stay
Mess
quiet,
up
Jordan,
with-
and you talk us through.
Right, it's 4th through here. Get way out wide. Try to get back in, but sometimes you mightn't be able to. But stay in 1st whole way through here. Try to get on the power as early as possible, but it's tough. Car's very slidey through some of them corners.
So we were talking
And
last
then
night about this
just
section,
before the 50.
Brooklands, how hard it is. The car goes so lifey there, and you're bringing it through. But this section here down around Lovefield with just getting onto the power. How are you aiming the car to get out of there? How are you lining it up?
There's a red curb on the right hand side. You kind of go out wide and kind of cut onto that. Just do a wee small circle down into 4th. Try not to go too wide or you get next. Fourth, 3rd. If you cut that corner, you get a big slowdown, so you need to stay off that.
Is it bad for track cuts as it was in Spa here, Jordan, or is it a bit more?
There'd
Laid
be
back.
a lot of, I'd say there'd be a few DQs. There's a lot of, like, you can get 1X's very easily going over grass and stuff, but it's not, I don't think it's as bad as Spa. You can avoid them easier, but it's still pretty bad if you're trying to get on a quali lap. The car's pretty loose, like, so you have to watch it.
Jordan, where do you think around the track is the most likely? It looks there, like, certainly through Cops and the Exodus Stowe looks like the kind of 2 places that you're most likely. Are there any particular points where lads are kind of saying, God, I'm really struggling and getting a lot of X's coming in or out of here?
I think on the outside of the last corner before the chicane, if you go, there's a point where if you go off track, you get an X, but if you just go a wee bit further, you get a 2-second slowdown. So if people try to abuse that, trying to maybe get wash off a car maybe or something, they'll run out and get that, and that could spice things up a bit.
And how's it working with the M4s generally, like in traffic? It look a plenty wide track? I suppose there should be theoretically enough space for you guys to be able to go too wide most of the time.
It's gonna be a bit dodgy actually, because there's not that many long enough straights apart from that big one. But apart from that, I'd say it's gonna be tough when there's gonna be I'd say there'll be a few incidents.
Yeah, I suppose that section, always that Maggots Beckett section, the one that you've just gone out of now, that seems like the one that's could potentially be the trickiest, especially if you come across traffic there.
Yeah, for sure. If you get stuck there, you're gonna lose a lot of time to people behind, and if you could get caught very easily, like. But it's just knowing when to hold back and make sure that everybody gets through safely.
We'll let you get your head down there, Jordan, and try and put in a lap.
Lads, we're about out of time. So have we anything else that we need to just cover?
Right.
Well, we'll let Jordan get his lap in. But...
Sorry, Niall, I just dropped you back into the wrong chat there. I meant to drop Jordan in.
No worries.
Rob, I suppose that you might tell us just before we go, like what's going on. We're coming up towards Christmas now, of course. With I suppose thankfully I haven't heard any Mariah Carey yet, but how are things going at Digital Motorsports, and I suppose what kind of things are you expecting people to pick up, and what's new, what's coming in for people to pick up coming into Christmas?
Yeah, well, there's always something going on at Digital Motorsports, so that's good. There's always, it's always extremely busy. October was one of our busiest months yet, even with the whole COVID thing. I think as people have gone back into lockdown, it's got busier, and people, I think we mentioned it in the last off the grid as well. The people are getting nervous about Christmas, and without being able to go into retail shops at the moment, everybody's wanting to order online. So obviously that's positive for us, but and people are buying Irish, which is nice as well to see. So we do appreciate that. But yeah, coming down the line, we've got Black Friday coming up as well. That's Friday the 27th of November. So you've got Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So typically a big kind of sales weekend, and we will have some promos on during that period. So yeah, watch this space for that. So we're going to have some discounts. There'll be some giveaways. We've got a big competition that we're going to be launching the week before. So that's going to be a good one. Forgot what it is, but it's pretty meaty if I remember rightly. And then we've got some really exciting stuff coming down the line. Again, we can't say too much about it yet because we're still working on it. But if four wheels aren't your thing, but you're still into simulation, then again, watch this space in a few weeks' time, and we should have some pretty exciting stuff to launch.
Yeah, we've actually got a really a pretty crazy closing 2 months of the year. Just thinking about it all, and I know we can't really go into too much detail, and people aren't going to be too chuffed with that. But Black Friday, the discounts and the promos are going to be pretty insane. We get a lot of requests of people asking us for discount codes, and generally within the industry, it's quite tough to give them. But Black Friday is going to be pretty bonkers, and we will have a lot of stock. So it's not going to be kind of a case where you have to be on super early. There's going to be a lot to keep everyone happy. But yeah, I think just hearing you say that, Rob, about everything that is coming up, it's going to be a really exciting finishing 2 months of the year, definitely.
Yeah, plus we've got the winter series of the iDMC is going to be kicking off. So the Irish Digital Motorsport Championship. So it's one every quarter. So you've got spring, summer, autumn, winter. We're in the closing stages of the spring Championship at the moment. So the next one, which we're in the planning stages of at the moment, will be launching. We don't have an exact date for when it's going to launch, but not too long after this one ends. So yeah, that's going to be coming up in the next couple of months as well. So that's exciting. And of course, then we've got a new amateur championship as well, which is going to be launching as well. So all different, and plus this big rally event that we will be putting on in the not too distant future. So yeah, exciting.
We didn't do our
I'm looking
usual
forward.
tech corner type stuff. I'm going to take that one on and get it better prepared for the next time around. Nathan Healy is the man who has all the latest in tech grades. But I suppose the big news on that side of things, Kevin, that we're excited about is we mentioned the last stream. You know, all the new AMD processors and the new or the 6000 series graphics cards are coming out. New Xboxes, new PlayStations, whole new range of gizmos and stuff coming out. SimLabs are releasing their Dash system as well, and there's a whole new raft of titles coming out. The new Dirt Rally title and WRC Rally stuff is there as well. So it's a great time, as we were saying, for getting into this sport. But the new VR headsets that have come online, the new graphics cards, new systems, new PCs, it just makes, you can see it even there as I'm looking at Ronan Hederman driving around. The graphics and the physics and all of that stuff's just coming together to bring this sport to a whole new level. So I think 2021 is going to be unreal. We're going to see a lot more coming in the way of better graphics, better physics, better just better platforms, really.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing about lockdown or double lockdown or lockdown 2 electric boogaloos, people have been calling it. Like, the lockdown around the world means that so many people have been inside play, kind of getting on this stuff that there seems to be a mad demand for a push. So it always kind of happens whenever you have kind of a time where everyone's focusing on something, you end up seeing mad innovation. And it looks like that. Like, it's amazing how the NVIDIA stuff came out.
Yeah.
Even. And we were all saying, God, it's going to blow AMD stuff out of the water. And then now AMD have brought something out and they've just blown NVIDIA out of the water. So it's really the progress in terms of graphics at the moment, especially with that ray tracing. I'm really excited to see the potential for that in all kinds of sims, not just racing sims. And like, it looks like particularly the price point is coming
unreal,
down,
to be honest.
which is brilliant. For people, for people like myself who aren't certainly are it's all about budget and making everything on a budget. Then the ability to be able to go out and buy a graphics card for 600 quid, 500 quid, and for it to be as good as what you would normally get for 1500 is absolutely staggering. So the democratization of high class sim racing, I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, there was one of Rob. I wouldn't be too cross if I lean into it a little bit, but I suppose we're always trying to lower the barrier to entry into this. And while some people might raise an eyebrow and go, really, €1,500, cube control rim and stuff. Yeah, okay, there is that end of the market as well. But we've got a few exciting things hopefully coming our way soon that will certainly bring a lower barrier to entry into this, while given the highest standards of racing, and we're excited about that. There's one other thing just before we sign off from this I did want to show, because it while we're talking about tech and innovation and all of that street, actually, what do we used to call it, Rob? Bracket Corner and Innovation Street. We'll have to get back to that.
That's right, yeah.
This is what our digital license platform is looking like. It doesn't look like much there at the moment, right? So that's but there's a lot going on to the background of this that's on our screens right now. And if you were to have a look at F1.com and have a look at what they're doing with the drivers and all that stuff, you'll see a little bit where this is going. But not to take away from this, like Shane has been putting in an awful lot of his time and effort, and a big shout out to Shane on his work with this. But I can't scroll down that screen, but the genesis, the idea is this is where everyone's digital license is going to exist online now, and we're really excited about seeing how that develops. You'll be able to click into the drivers, see how many points they have, see what their digital license is, see what their results from the last few rounds of races and all that. So that's going to be really an exciting thing. And then the other thing that we'll be launching for Silverstone is the incidents, new incidents form. So again, you can see there, create an incident, and it'll bring up the rounds, the lap number, the driver, the cars involved, the type of incident, whether the incident's been closed by racing control, whether it's still being reviewed, the decision that was made, and the action that was taken. So that's going to standardize how we do our incidents going forward, and most of all, make it very visible to everyone who's been submitting incidents or wants to see the process. So maybe for the next off the grid, we might get into that a little bit more, which could be interesting, Kevin, to get our teeth stuck into how the stewarding side of things works and how we go about making those decisions and how we review those incidents. But
Absolutely.
so that's all to come. So I think that's a wrap for this show for this week. Unless you've anything, Sean, you want to throw in?
Nope, all good.
That sounded really dodgy, whatever you're up to in the background. Rob, you anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, nothing else from me. No, we'll let Kevin sign off in his usual style.
Yeah, I suppose thanks a million for tuning in. That's episode 3 of Off the Grid in the books. Up online. Remember, you can always watch back if you want. If you've only caught the end of it, it'll be on demand over the course of the week. Of course, the latest round of the Irish Digital Motorsports Series, round 5 and 6. Or is it round 6 and 7? Round 5 and 6. 2 20-minute sprint races in Silverstone. That kicks off at, am I right in saying 8:30 Wednesday night? Because the clock has obviously gone back, so we're not GMT +1 anymore. We're just GMT. But yeah, 8:30 on Wednesday on the Digital Motorsport platform, or Apex Racing TV, or indeed the iRacing Esports Network, should you so wish. Myself and Jack will, of course, bring the latest round of the BMW M4 and M8 Championship in association with Rondello Park and Motorsport Ireland, of course. But from me, Kevin Godwin, from all of us here, until Wednesday, Song of Phone.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers. See you, lads.